After 5 games in the 2024-2025 NBA season, the Charlotte Hornets have a Tre Mann problem. He came into this season as a backup guard off the bench to provide scoring and playmaking while LaMelo got his minutes of rest. Through the preseason and through the first 5 games of regular season, he's been absolutely scorching, and he has overperformed that role to an extent that it's causing bigger questions to be asked about the roster construction going forward. A lot of people are operating under the assumption that he is a six-man microwave scorer off the bench, but I believe that is selling him short. He is a gifted primary scorer who can score in isolation or at a pick and rolls. He can play off ball. He can play on ball. He's shown himself to be a good defender. People who had the idea that they could re-sign him for 6, 8, $10 million a year after his rookie deal is up, that's gone now. He's blown it out the water. He's looking like he's a $20 to $25 million a year player right now, and I can see it going up. If you see what he can do, the way he can score and operate, he's every bit as good as a player like a Jalen Brunson, a Trae Young. Give him a steady stream of pick and rolls, and he can score in a variety of ways. Snake dribbles, pull-ups, floaters, layups at the rim through contact, step back threes. Any phase of the game, he has an answer. He has a tool for you. And it's getting to the point now where defenders are starting to get nervous when they're ISO with him because he just has so many options at his disposal. His crossovers left to right, right to left are mean. His step backs create a lot of separation. He's just a very slippery and shifty individual. And it makes you wonder what it would look like giving him an increased usage rate and increased minutes. Currently, right now, he is averaging 21 points a game, 3.5 assists, and almost 4 rebounds a game. When you stretch that out per 36, you're looking at 26.5 points a game, 4.5 assists, and 5 rebounds a game. That is every bit as good as a player like Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Halliburton, you name him. And he's doing that on great efficiency. He's almost a 50-40-90 guy right now. From the field, he's shooting 47%. From three, he's shooting 44%. And for free throws, he's perfect right now, 12 for 12, which gives him a true shooting percentage, .595. So he's absolutely scorching. It'd be one thing if he's just doing catch and shoot threes and taking high percentage shots, but he's creating a lot of this offense through contact against the team's best defenders. There's no gimmicks here. He's doing this right now against set defenses who have him on their scouting report. 2 games ago against the Raptors, he had a big game, and anytime LaMelo was out, he was drawing the primary defender from Toronto, and all the help defenders were looking to stop him. But he's so crafty and gifted that there's really nothing you can really do to really bother him. Because like I said, he can score out of a pick and roll. He can score to isolation. Any gimmick you throw at him, he has an answer for it. And so it's really going to be interesting to see what Charlotte does. Because coming into the season, it was always going to be a wait and see. What do we have? Your starting five that we thought coming this season was going to be LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Grant Williams, and Mark Williams. There's been discussions about maybe you start Miles at the 4, bring Grant off the bench, and you start Josh Green at the 3. But whatever have you, the big four we wanted to see play were LaMelo, Miller, Miles, and Mark Williams. Well, Mark Williams has been injured the entire season. He hasn't had a preseason. There's reports he didn't even play during the summer. So whether or not we're going to get to see him is starting to become fleeting. So in his stead, Nick Richards has stepped up. But even he has gone down. And so now you have a Charlotte roster that is pretty guard and wing heavy and very light on front court players. Right now you're only looking at healthy Moussa Diabate, who was a two-way player who made the team, TJ Salon, who's a very raw rookie, 19-year-old rookie, and Taj Gibson, who's like a 38-year-old vet who's really brought in here to bring a vet presence, not really to play. We have not seen him play yet, But with Nick Richards being down, he might have to play going forward. And so there's a glaring need in this roster right now for a big. Mark Williams was supposed to be the big of the future, but like I said, that is a massive question right now because his health just keeps failing him. So you start thinking about this roster construction and what you can do with it. Miles' name keeps popping up because he's on, as of right now, a relatively good deal. It's not too much, not too little. If he didn't have his off-court issues, he was probably going to get a max contract or something somewhere close to that. But instead, he got something less than a max. He's on about $25 million a year, which is a lot of money. But the way he's capable of playing, he's well worth it. Through 5 games, though, the fit with Miles has not been clear and obvious. We only got to see him play with Miller one game where we had LaMelo, Miller, and Miles playing together. That was a Rockets game, but since then we haven't seen that. And Miles has really struggled to find his footing, to find his place. It's been an awkward fit. And it's not something it's guaranteed to be an issue that they can't solve. But as of right now, I'm starting to get worried that this might not be able to be solved. And it might make more sense to move Miles and get back a more traditional big man. Someone like a Nick Claxton from Brooklyn, for example. Or if you do keep Miles, it's going to be hard to keep Tre Mann. Because like I was saying, if Tre Mann plays like this the rest of the year, his cost is going to be absolutely up there with Miles. You're looking at a $25 million player. And he's a restricted free agent, and so another team can offer him that, and Charlotte can match that. But if they match that, they need to make other roster moves to make room for that. Because like I said, right now he wasn't expected to be this, and he's basically blown the budget with how well he's playing. Like I said, he changes the math on this team. He went from a great backup option to now one of your top 3 at worst guys. As of right now, he's the Hornets' second best player. Miller has only had a chance to play one game and he got hurt. He's going to be back. But even the best of what we saw from Miller last year is not doing what Tre is doing this year over a small sample size. So we'll look to see how that continues going forward. But as of right now, you're looking at 3 extremely gifted scorers in LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Tre Mann. I would imagine the Hornets are going to want to see if they can find a winning formula with those 3. Because like I said, there's going to be decisions that have to be made with his roster going forward in year 2 and year 3 of LaMelo's max contract. That's him. He is now the franchise player. So the pieces that are around him are very important. And we're right now trying to figure that out, what that looks like and who's that going to be. So I would look for interest in Miles, potentially. I know he's very close with LaMelo, and LaMelo is a big reason why he got that contract from Hornets in the first place. So I can understand if they're not looking to move him at all. Your options are you have Vasa Micic, who's drastically underperformed expectations to the point where he looks borderline unplayable. Right now he's out of the rotation, and the Hornets look better for it. But he costs about $8 million a year, so he's not a player the Hornets can really afford to not have in the rotation. Right, that's a massive roster spot being empty with him in the game right now. There's reports of him wanting to go play with Jokic in Denver, but there's really nothing to get for him from Denver, unless you want to swap Zeke Naji for him. And I have no idea what Denver thinks about Zeke Naji, or if they even want Micic, but that's just an option. As of right now, I'm looking at Micic as an expiring contract. That's his value right now, because his value on the court couldn't be any lower. He looks slow. He can't create any separation. He can't do anything without getting the screen. We've seen him get his picked multiple times in the backcourt. He can't score in isolation. He's multiple air balls, multiple bad misses, passing the ball to the wrong team. Like it's bad out there for Micic, and so I don't know how easy it would be to move him apart from him being an expiring contract. Or a team could roll the dice thinking that he's just not applying himself because he's not playing for a contender or something like that, because he is an older veteran, not in the NBA, but an older player, and You saw something similar when the Clippers got Nicholas Batum from the Hornets, who looked like he was done. It looked like he was a player who was retired, but just finishing out his contract. He was still on big money. But as soon as he got traded to a different team, he got a new lease on life, and he looked like a competent player again. So maybe a team could convince themselves that that's Micic, but as of right now, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that. The other option you'd have would be a Cody Martin, who has had health injuries the last couple of years, and but he's someone that NBA teams are intrigued by. His twin brother Caleb went to Miami. We all saw what he did in the playoffs a year or two ago. He's now a starting guard in Philly. So people know who Cody Martin is. His big concern right now is his health. He's really battled with knee injuries the past couple of years, and so it makes you wonder, is there something more serious going on there, or is it just temporary injury setbacks? So I could see teams wanting Cody, and his fit on this Hornets team isn't really that clear. He doesn't have great synergy with LaMelo. They tend to play in spite of each other and not with each other. And so you wonder if that's just a bad fit, and if Martin would rather just be on a different team, or potentially he could be your guard coming off the bench who can provide some scoring, some ball handling to spell you while LaMelo is gone. But as of right now, that role is being occupied by Tre Mann, and like I said before, he's drastically overperformed that role. To keep this guy as a quote unquote six-man at the bench option is temporary at best. Because if this is a merit-based team and you're picking your best five that gives you the best team, Tre Mann's in there, and using him just to bolster your second unit at this point is doing him a disservice. He's much better than just a player who helps your bench. He helps your first team. So overall, this is a good problem to have, where you basically have more talent than you were expecting. The idea that they got Tre Mann for Gordon Hayward is mind-blowing. You had a dude on a massive expiring contract who was giving you nothing for going on 4 years. To offload him without having to give anything up was already good work, but to get a player of Tre Mann's caliber in return is just it's game-changing. It's a borderline fleece. Even though OKC knew what they had in him, they just had no room for him. But to get him for Gordon Hayward is amazing work from Jeff Peterson. And what he does with that remains to be seen. This is a Hornets team that is not trying to compete this year. The front office has been very non-committal about what their plans are. They haven't been preaching like they're in a tank, but they also haven't been preaching playoffs either. They've been preaching wait and see. We're going to see what we have. And this is our first bit of evidence or proof of what they might possibly have. Tre Mann has emerged as a big piece going forward, or I'd hate to say it, he could also be a trade piece as well. Because what he's showing, a lot of teams could use that as a foundational piece, not as some six-man off the bench. So we'll see how this develops. The Hornets are currently 2-3. We've always known they're going to have a rough start. They're playing a lot of good teams right at the gate, so it was always going to be a hard test for them. And how they looked after 10 games is really going to determine this team's future. Where if you perform well in these first 10 games, you're in the mix, then you're buying. You're trying to find players to build around what you got right now. If they're struggling after these 10 games, you're starting to wonder, well, maybe we're better off trying to keep our pick, staying out of the playoffs, and developing our players and putting them in the shop window. And your Vasimicic, your Cody Martins, or even your Tre Manns, your Miles Bridges, you're seeing what the interest is out there and what you can get back for them in return. But that's it for this video. Like and subscribe. Please talk to me in the comment section if you want to see anything else or you would have more questions. The Hornets are the most intriguing team, in my opinion, this NBA season. It can go so many different ways. They're not as far away as contending for the playoffs as people think they are. It's really the biggest thing is LaMelo's health, and the way he's playing right now, he's playing at all NBA level, and he's only getting better. Peace.